everyone, welcome back to my video. I'm the City Witch. Today's video is going to be two more decks that I'm going to show you from my collection of Oracle and Tarot. I have two as always for you, and one of them is a tarot and the other one is an oracle, but they're both quite dark and gothy and sinister, so I wanted to put them together because the energies match and I often use them in conjunction with each other as well. Now my tarot deck I'm going to show you is for personal use. I do not use this with clients or the public at all, just so you know guys, but my oracle deck I do use this quite a lot with the public and for client work. So I'll show you the oracle first because the tarot actually has quite a lot to it and it's quite complicated, so I want to spend a decent amount of time working on that one and talking to you about it. So I'm going to start with the oracle to get that one out of the way. So the oracle deck I'm going to talk to you about is by Stacey DeMarco and it's called the Halloween Oracle, Lifting the Veil Between the Worlds Every Night, and it looks like this. So it's an absolutely stunning deck guys. I absolutely love this one. My friend actually made me a matching pouch so if you're interested in any of her work I can actually link the details in the description so you can buy from her because she does actually sell those if you like guys. The book looks like that, and I love this. Look at this. Woo! I think that's so cool. I love that. So the book covers a lot of interesting little tidbits in it. It has a content which is called Trick or Treat, Truth or Dare. It goes on to talk about the scariest night of the year, so that's a bit of a history lesson on Halloween and the Day of the Dead and all the deities that surround that and the traditions. And then it talks to you about how to use this deck and some dedications that you can use to dedicate this deck, which I think is really nice. Also has some really nice artwork throughout the book, although it's a shame it's not full colour. Also comes with some tarot spreads. So instead of your traditional 3-card pull, this one actually uses the 3-card spread as birth, death and rebirth, which is an interesting spin. It has a jack-o'-lantern divination spread, so it looks like that. And then it has the dedication directly after that. So it literally only gives you 2 spreads that are unique to this deck. But again, I don't mind that because a lot of information out there is easily accessible these days. So you don't need everything in the book, especially not the basic layouts because they can be found anywhere guys. So I love that they give you some that are specific to the deck and then that is it. So that's, in my opinion, all you really need. How I find this deck, I find it really simple to understand. The symbolism is fantastic. The imagery is beautiful and the cards are not too big to handle in your hand, so just about the right size I'd say. If they were any bigger they'd be maybe a bit too big for me personally to handle. Really like the artwork on the back of the cards as well because again that's really simple. Shame though when you turn it upside down that these weren't different angles and directions because then that would have made it harder to tell if the card was reversed or the right way. But I do like that it's plain and simple. The cardstock itself is an alright quality, it's quite decent, it's quite thick, it doesn't bend too easily, so it's not going to be easy to damage these, which I like. I'll show you the cards now guys, just to give you an example of them. So each card is beautifully coloured and crafted, like I said, really easy symbolism. Each one relates to Halloween, or is some symbol for Halloween or darker aspects. But I also like that there are some symbols in this which aren't all completely dark. It's quite a nice light mix of both. I love that one, that's beautiful. And that one. I like my skulls guys, it's one of my favourite symbols to have and I have a lot of skulls around my home. Ways that I've particularly used this deck guys is I use it a lot to work with clients. So when a client comes to me and says they think they're cursed or hexed or under some dark influence from somebody's spell, I tend to use this deck quite a bit to decide whether that is true or not, if there is anything there, and to try and pick up on the energies and what kind of a spell might be done. Love that card, love that goddess. So that's one way I use this deck. I obviously use this deck at Halloween. I use it both at Beltane and Halloween when the veil is at its thinnest, so that I can connect to all the various energies. My favourite way to use the deck is to connect to my ancestors. So when the veil is thin, obviously your ancestors can come and visit you, and it's traditional to lay a feast for them or put some food out for them and carve and light a jack-o'-lantern so they can find their way to your home. And this deck, I find it really nice to work with, to connect to my ancestors, work with them, commune with them, and work with them in my craft, to be honest. I do use this deck sometimes as cards that I place on my altar to bring in a certain energy or a certain focus or as a certain symbolism. I do like to use these cards in spellcasting as well, so I use these in conjunction with clients and spellcasting, and if I have discovered that there is a curse there and certain cards come up, I tend to use those cards when I'm doing the curse removal as well, so I'm adding the energies of a card in there to help me connect even further. I use them in meditation as well, and I particularly, as I say, use these decks for when I want to work on darker aspects of myself and work on my shadow self. So really good for that as well. I would easily score this deck really high, guys. It's really simple to work with. It's really good for a beginner. The symbolism is really easy. I don't find this deck complicated at all. The imagery is really nice. The cards are of a good quality, and I do find that the energies are really simple. So just to give you this one as an example, so this is the spider card and it says community and web weaving on it, but easily if this was reversed you could say that that's about getting tangled up in a web of lies and deceit, or someone's keeping secrets from you and it's time to tangle that person up and out them for who they are. So there's a number of different ways to interpret the cards in this, which I really like. And again, you could focus on the energies of these cards to decide whether there is something negative going on in your life and if it's been influenced or manipulated or placed there by outside forces. So that is one of my favourite ways to use the deck. So I would score this one, as I say, quite high, probably roughly about an 8, maybe even a 9 out of 10. I use it all year round. I think it's a wonderful deck to work with, really easy to understand. The symbolism is quite easy, good for a beginner, and the information in the book is great. When it lists each card, it will give you the name of the card, it will give you a description, so you get like, for example, let's see, so eternal lovers, it says underneath that, love is love, and it transcends physical death. Then you also get a poem or a little mantra that you can say. So for this one, it says, when the body leaves us and our souls are above, our possessions no longer, nothing remains but the intertwining of love. So you get like a little mantra or saying. It doesn't particularly always rhyme, sometimes it does. And you get a description of why that card was included, what the symbolism behind the card means and how it relates to Halloween. And then the last part of the description is always the actual divination meaning for the card. So really simple, gives you a background on the card so you can then connect to the energies of it even further and do some research if you want. And at the back of that, it does give you some further reading examples as well. So love that deck, easily, like I said, an 8 or a 9 out of 10. So the next one I'm going to talk to you about is a tarot deck that I've had for quite a long time. For that reason, I don't have the box anymore because the box kind of fell apart. It was kind of glued together by something sticky on the side, and unfortunately it lost its stickiness over time, so the box kept pinging open on my shelf and it was really annoying, and eventually it just got ripped and battered, so I just got rid of it. So the actual deck title is called The Vampire Tarot, and it has kind of a black and a green cover to the box. The book inside it is called Phantasmagoria and it looks like that. The artwork on this is absolutely stunning. I'll read you the back just so you know. So it says, surrender to your spiritual hunger. Step into the rapture world of vampires and let your imagination reveal hidden truths. Amidst darkly alluring images of coiled serpents, bare throats, and glowing eyes of fire, you descend into your deepest shadow. Only then can you arise to the radiant light of the divine. Discover powerful ways of using the tarot of the vampires. With this practical companion book, enrich your experience with profound interpretations of all 78 cards, guidelines and tips for effective readings, unique spreads, exercises to enhance your intuition and understanding, and instructions for creating your personal vampire profile. So really, I mean, this is like, you don't just get the deck, you get a full book as well, and it comes with so much information in this book. The only comments I would say about this is it doesn't have a very good list of content. I mean, the content is literally Phantasmagoria, what the title means, why it was chosen for this book. Next chapter is A Dark and Stormy Night, introduction and background. Then you've got Alchemy, about the cards. The Awakening, card spreads and exercises. Kurth and Kin, personal card portraits. And then chapter 2 is the cards, the major arcana, the minor arcana, and then all of the description information that match that. So there's a lot of information in this, guys. And one of the reasons I wanted to take my time to talk to you about this book is because of all the different things it covers. So firstly, it talks to you about the fear and the shadow aspect of each person and what that means. Talks to you about your own personal shadows, your own hungers as well, your own negative desires. Talks to you about the blood rose and what that means, and that connects to kind of like your vampire bloodline. And there's a way to tell what your vampire bloodline is, and it actually teaches you that in this book as well. The nature of matter and time. So it talks to you about time and the context of that, the human construct surrounding it, how it relates to vampires. Tarot of the vampire, so this is where it goes in depth about connecting the two, the traditional meanings of tarot, and then bringing in the vampires as well. Then the next chapter says all about alchemy, so in this it's giving you examples about how to connect to the major arcana, how each of those then connects to a glyph, an element, a planet, and a star sign, so it goes into a lot of astrology as well. Then it talks to you about the suits and what they all connect to, and then the major arcana and what you should take note of with those. Talks to you about some in-depth information and some tips surrounding the suits of cards as well. The court cards, talks to you about the queens, the kings, the lords. Talks to you about using the Quabala and the tarot together in conjunction, and it gives you an example of that as well. Talks to you about the different paths you can take. What else? Talks to you about the different nodes on the Quabala as well, and then connecting to alchemy and kindred spirits. And then the next chapter, the Awakening, so this is where you go into your spreads, your exercises, and information on how to use the cards. So you've got the shadow and light aspects, so this is the main thing and why I wanted to take my time on this one. So each of these cards in this deck has a traditional tarot meaning, but then it also has a light aspect as well, and then it has an even darker aspect to it, so a negative, but then it has a shadow, and the shadow is extra focuses that we need to be aware of, and it talks to you about different energies involved in a situation that you're very unaware of, that aren't just negative but actually shrouded in darkness and being deliberately kept from you, and you need to work on them. So either it's internally that you're just denying that they're there, or it's an external force and you're just completely unaware of it, and you need to be aware of it to properly interpret the situation and know what to do. So I love that about this deck, that it's got that extra aspect that no other deck before has ever had. So it gives you some reading guidelines and tips as well to help you with the cards, and then it talks to you about the spreads. So the spreads are as follows: the Soothsayer, the Dark Mirror, the Blood Trail, the Book of Shadows, the Eternal Cross, Trespass, Forbidden Fruit, the Prophecy, the Labyrinth, and then it goes on to talk to you about exercises you can do. So it's got the Manuscript, the Dreaming, the Vision, the Shroud, and the Dark Spell. So they're all different exercises to do with this particular deck that you can do to deepen your connection to the cards and to work through different aspects of the cards that they've included that again are hidden. So until you do those, you don't know what they are. So I'm not going to spoil them for you guys, but they're really good. Then it talks to you about Kurth and Kin, so personal portraits of the cards. So this is where it talks about the different clans of the vampires, the calling, the dynasties that it's mentioned. Talks to you about the bloodline of the cards as well. Talks to you about the vampire courts and other cards that they chose to include, so all the symbolism, and it gives you a full list of all of the different energies and symbolism and other connective forces like the planets and the star signs to each and every card in the deck. Then it talks to you about the cards. Now each card is laid out a certain way, so I'm going to sort of give you an example. So the first card we'll come to is obviously the Fool, because it's the first major arcana card. So it gives you an alchemy meaning for that. So in this one it says the Trump card of air connects Kurth with Chokmah on the Tree of Life. And then the Kindred Spirits, so this is if another card in the deck should come up at the same time as this one, they're actually connected. So for this one, the Kindred Spirit is the Spirit of the Everlasting. So again, you need to read the book to fully understand what that is and what card that is in the deck. But if those came up at the same time, they have an extra meaning that you need to be aware of. Then it has the essence. So the essence is always the main purpose of the card, and I tend to find that the essence relates a lot to traditional tarot. So in this it says the original creative seed, cosmic consciousness and spiritual intuition, great potential and openness, creativity and freedom and independence, a new beginning, fresh start and visions, a great change. Can also mean chaos in this one, but I think that's because of the vampire element. The great spirit, infinite possibility and potential, spiritual joy and ecstasy, curiosity, confidence, faith and courage. So they're the meanings that it's applied to the Fool card, and then you have a message. So each card comes with a message which gives you an in-depth description of the card, talks to you about what you're looking for when you actually look at the card, all the different layered symbolism in it, all the colours. So it gives you so many meanings, guys. It's too many of them to list here. Then it gives you an an analysis and symbolism for the card. So this is what you should look for in each card. Then it gives you your shadow aspect. So again, so you've got the light, you've got the traditional meaning, you've got the reverse meaning, but then you've also got the shadow aspect. Now the shadow aspect is something always truly dark and dangerous that you need to focus on. Now you don't have to do this for every card, even though there's a shadow aspect for each and every card in the deck. I tend to only do this mainly for the major arcana, especially for myself. So if I draw a card and say it was the Fool card, I would then, recognise what that means because I know the tarot really well. I would read the reading, and then at the end I would take note of each of the major arcana, and I would kind of go, okay, so I need to recognise what the shadow aspect of that card is, so I will then refer to the book, have a good look at what that is and think, is that talking about me in that particular position the card was in, or is it talking about somebody else and what I need to be aware of about them that's been hidden or shrouded in darkness, and how that darkness might affect me in my life. So there's a number of different ways to interpret that, and I can't memorise them all. I'm not that good. So I do refer to the book, so I keep the book handy whenever I'm doing a reading, and if anybody that I say decided to read for, I would have this book close and tell them it is for the shadow meanings of the cards, because I don't know them off by heart. But this particular deck I don't read for other people, I've got to be honest. I have had requests, but I just don't. This is quite a personal deck for me. It's one that really is for my eyes only, I feel, and I only tend to do a reading for myself. I don't tend to do it for anyone else, not even family and friends. I do keep it for myself. When I first got it though, I was dead intrigued, and I did practice with other people, but as time got on, I grew my connection with them. I was like, no, this is just meant for me. I'm not meant to read this for other people. I'm not meant to work with this deck with other people. So that's why it is just for me. But you guys, if you like this deck and you want to use it and do readings for other people, then by all means. But it has so much information to it, it's going to take you a very long time to learn it. I've had this deck now since I was about 2021. So, easily I would say 13, 14 years now I've had this deck. So a very, very long time, and I'm still not there yet. I'm still learning, and every time I pull a card, no matter what spread it's in, no matter what layout, no matter what it's trying to tell me, I always learn something new. I always focus on something different on each and every card. So wonderful deck, but very difficult to understand in one go. Would definitely take you some time, but it's worth putting that time in. So I'm now going to show you the cards, and I say this is a full tarot deck, so I'm going to be quite quick with this, guys. So I do want to say the card stock is quite good. Each card, as you can see, is quite dark and gothy, but there's always flares of light and colour. They can be quite sexual or dangerous, some of the images on the cards. They obviously are vampires, so there is a lot of blood and gore in these cards as well. But if you like that gothic aspect to them, then great. I particularly got drawn to this deck because I was studying vampires at the time. I was really looking for a dark gothic deck, something that spoke to me, and this one just kind of came up. And I just thought, what the heck, I'll take a chance on it. And honestly, I've never looked back. I think this deck is truly wonderful. Has a lot of shape-shifting energies in it as well. Has some demonic energy, some chains, some bondage. So there's a lot of symbolism. And actually, if you look very closely at a lot of these, I don't know if this has actually got one on. Yeah, so if I just give you focus there, you can see that this connects to Aries. His belt has got the symbol of Aries on it, so you can see there is symbolism in the cards, and you just really have to look for it, but it is there. There is also a lot of symbols of the cross in this as well, so there is some mythology connecting to Christianity and obviously the origins of the vampire and Dracula, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of symbolism with that. I do love this deck. I think it's a really, really beautiful deck. I love how dark and mysterious and interesting it is. And I never get bored looking at it because every single image is completely different. Haven't come across my favourite card yet. I'm waiting for it to come out. Oh, just to show you, that is what the front of the box will look like. It will have that image on it, guys. Just thought I'd stop and tell you that in case you go looking for this, since I can't show you the box. I actually just keep it in a velvet bag, this deck, with the book nearby. Still haven't come across my favourite card. Must be coming up soon though, because I'm running out of cards here. There it is! That's my favourite one, the Wheel of Fortune. I think that's beautiful. Look at that, guys, all the colour and the different roses. Last few cards now. And the last one. And there we go. So that is the entire deck, guys. And just to show you the back, so the back is this rose design, and you can't actually really tell too much what direction the card is, whether it's reversed or the right way up, based on that. And I like that. Like I said, I like not to know. I like to be able to be surprised. So this is definitely a wonderful deck to work with if you're definitely into working with your shadow aspect, darker energies, the world around you, and you really love vampires and gothic energies, then this is probably going to be the deck for you guys. You're not going to look back, honestly. It's fantastic. So easily this one I would score 10 out of 10 for all the information. The fact it comes with a massive book full of information and wonderful. You know, this deck goes above and beyond compared to all others. Most of them just give you a poxy book with a few basic definitions in and maybe the odd spread. But this one is a full book that's going to take you a while to go through, with meditations, exercises, you know, even rituals and some information about vampires in it that you probably wouldn't get anywhere else. So absolutely loved it. Thought it was a fantastic deck. 10 out of 10 from me. And that's all I've got for you today, guys. So if you liked the video, then as always, give me that thumbs up and click the bell so YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. You can support me on all my social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and they are all in the information below if you'd like to do that. And of course, I am on Patreon, so for those of you out there who choose to support me on Patreon, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll speak to you very soon. Take care of each other. Blessed be.